Maria Santiago carefully smoothed down her deep burgundy dress for what felt like the 100th time, her fingers gently tracing the familiar, silky fabric. This dress was Jonathan's favorite, chosen for its perfect fit that accentuated her curves. Even after 10 years of marriage, Maria still longed to take his breath away. In the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Her hair fell in soft waves, her makeup was meticulously applied, and her eyes shone with hopeful anticipation. Tonight was their anniversary, a milestone that she was determined to make perfect despite the unspoken tensions lurking beneath the surface. In the dining room, Maria's careful planning transformed the space into a masterpiece. Soft candlelight danced along the walls, casting a warm glow over the table that had been set with fine china and fresh roses. The savory aroma of Jonathan's favorite meal filled the air, and every detail had been placed with meticulous care. With their children, Emily and Max, safely at her parents' house, Maria had created a magical atmosphere designed to celebrate their love. Each element of the evening was meant to evoke cherished memories and hope for the future, even as an undercurrent of uncertainty began to stir. As Maria lit the final candle, her thoughts drifted back to their wedding day. She remembered how young and full of dreams both she and Jonathan had been. Back then, Jonathan's boyish grin and promise of a perfect world had captivated her. They had weathered many storms since, sleepless nights with colicky babies, financial struggles, and the loss of loved ones, but those hardships had forged a resilient bond. Despite the passage of time and the weight of accumulated disappointments, Maria still clung to the hope that tonight would rekindle the spark they once shared. Her heart, however, was unprepared for what was to come. Moments later, the sound of Jonathan's car pulling into the driveway filled the air with both excitement and trepidation. Maria, with a final adjustment of her dress, stepped into the hallway to greet him. Jonathan appeared, dashing in his crisp white shirt and dark slacks, though his greeting was oddly flat. He carried a small, elegantly wrapped box, a gift that momentarily raised Maria's hopes of a loving gesture. Despite her anticipation, she noticed a subtle discord in his tone. The scene, designed to be a celebration of their anniversary, began to unravel as the evening took a sudden, unexpected turn. Over dinner, Maria tried to spark conversation about their shared memories and dreams for the future, but Jonathan remained distant and distracted. He picked at his food and offered only one-word responses, leaving her increasingly anxious. When he finally slid the gift box across the table with an odd glint in his eye, Maria's heart raced in anticipation. She carefully untied the ribbon and lifted the lid, only to discover a thick stack of neatly bound legal papers, divorce papers. The shock was immediate and overwhelming, as the carefully constructed celebration turned into a cruel spectacle that shattered her expectations. The revelation of the divorce papers hit Maria like a physical blow. Her mind raced with disbelief and betrayal as she searched Jonathan's face for any sign that this was a mistake. Instead, she found a stranger with a cold smirk, while snickering voices came from the kitchen where Jonathan's friends, Mike and Dave, stood barely containing their laughter. The atmosphere of the anniversary dinner dissolved into humiliation and heartbreak. Every detail, the carefully arranged candles, roses, and the meal she had lovingly prepared, now seemed like a mockery of their shared history. Maria's tears welled as she realized her world was collapsing. Overwhelmed by the cruelty of the moment, Maria abruptly stood up, the sound of her chair scraping against the floor echoing in the silence. The room spun around her as she struggled to catch her breath, her mind filled with disappointment and guilt. Jonathan's condescending voice tried to dismiss her pain, urging her not to be dramatic. But the humiliation was too raw. Determined not to let his callous actions define her, she left the dining room without a word. The oppressive atmosphere of betrayal forced her to escape, and as she fled, the laughter of Jonathan's friends followed her like a painful reminder of the night's cruelty. Desperate to find solace, Maria rushed out into the cool night air and drove away from the house that had once been her home. With trembling hands clutching her coat and purse, she sought refuge at her sister Clara's house, a place that promised safety and understanding. In the car, every mile brought a mix of grief and reluctant acceptance. Maria's mind churned with questions about how their marriage had come to this point, and the reality of the divorce papers felt both surreal and inevitable. Despite the overwhelming despair, a small spark of determination began to flicker within her as she anticipated the support waiting at Clara's doorstep. At Clara's welcoming home, Maria collapsed into her sister's comforting embrace. Clara's eyes filled with empathy as she listened to Maria's broken account of the evening. Between choked sobs, Maria recounted the humiliation of the anniversary dinner and the shock of discovering Jonathan's betrayal. Clara's silent support and warm words offered a measure of comfort in the midst of Maria's devastation. As the initial shock faded into a deep, aching numbness, Maria began to question her own life and the hidden secrets that might have led to this moment. In that small, safe space, she allowed herself to grieve while contemplating the uncertain future ahead. The next morning, Maria awoke with a heavy heart in Clara's guest room, her body still trembling from the previous night's heartbreak. The sunlight streaming through the curtains felt almost mocking in its cheerfulness. Despite the pain, Maria resolved to take back control of her life. Clara gently encouraged her to begin planning her next steps, reminding her that she was strong and capable. With a mix of sorrow and determination, Maria agreed to face the reality of the situation. The thought of rebuilding her life, especially for the sake of her children, pushed her to confront the betrayal and search for answers, even as she wrestled with a deep sense of loss. As Maria gathered her thoughts, she began to revisit the details of her life with Jonathan. Determined to understand the extent of his betrayal, she started an investigation in their home office. Methodically, she sifted through files and drawers until she discovered a stack of bank statements for an account she had never known existed. Shocked by the large sums involved, Maria realized that Jonathan had been keeping secrets for years. The discovery of mysterious business trips, coded emails, and hidden documents painted a picture of a man living a double life. Each piece of evidence stoked the flames of her determination to uncover the full truth. With her growing collection of evidence, Maria reached out to a lawyer recommended by Clara, a sharp and no-nonsense attorney named Evelyn Ross. In a quiet, professional office, Evelyn reviewed the documents and listened intently as Maria recounted her discoveries. The lawyer's eyes widened at the evidence of Jonathan's financial deceit and secret apartment lease. Evelyn explained that this information would not only bolster Maria's case in divorce proceedings but also provide grounds for a favorable settlement. As she left the office with plans to pursue legal action, Maria felt a renewed sense of purpose. The betrayal was devastating, but she was now armed with proof and determination. Over the following days, Maria immersed herself in building a case against Jonathan. She organized all her findings, bank statements, emails, and secret lease agreements, into a neat, evidence-filled dossier. The process was both cathartic and empowering. With Evelyn's guidance, Maria began to map out a strategy that would expose Jonathan's double life and secure her financial and emotional well-being. Despite the heavy burden of betrayal, she resolved to confront the man who had shattered their marriage. Every piece of evidence gave her strength, and each discovery fueled her determination to reclaim her life. For the first time in weeks, Maria felt a glimmer of hope amid the chaos. Maria then arranged a face-to-face meeting with Jonathan at a neutral cafe, a place they once frequented in happier times. Accompanied by Clara, who remained a silent but supportive presence, Maria confronted Jonathan about the divorce papers and the mounting evidence against him. In the quiet setting of the cafe, the tension was palpable. Jonathan appeared haggard and disheartened, his confident facade replaced by a sense of defeat. As Maria calmly presented the evidence of his secret bank account and hidden apartment lease, the conversation turned from confrontation to confession. The meeting, though painful, marked a turning point in Maria's journey toward reclaiming her power. At the cafe, Jonathan's defenses crumbled as he was forced to explain the discrepancies in his story. He admitted that the apartment had initially been a workspace and that the bank account was meant for a business venture. However, his explanations only deepened Maria's sense of betrayal. With measured resolve, she pressed him for the truth, unwilling to accept vague excuses. Jonathan's remorse was evident, yet his words failed to mend the broken trust between them. Maria's calm yet determined demeanor left no room for further denial. The meeting ended with an unspoken acknowledgement that their marriage was irreparably damaged, and that both must now face the consequences of their choices. After leaving the cafe, Maria returned to Clara's house feeling a mix of sadness, anger, and resolve. The confrontation had confirmed what she already suspected: Jonathan had been deceitful for years. With the legal process now officially in motion, she began to prepare for the long road ahead. Every phone call with her lawyer and every document reviewed reinforced her determination to protect her future and that of her children. Maria resolved that she would not allow this betrayal to define her. Instead, she channeled her pain into a fierce determination to rebuild her life and secure a stable future, no matter how difficult the legal battles might become. In the weeks that followed, Maria's life became a blur of legal meetings and evidence reviews. Evelyn informed her that Jonathan was contesting every aspect of the divorce, including the division of assets and custody arrangements. His high-powered attorney was known for aggressive tactics, and Maria braced herself for a difficult fight. Despite the mounting pressure, she remained steadfast, relying on the evidence she had gathered and the unwavering support of Clara. Each day brought new challenges as she navigated a world of legal jargon and courtroom strategies. The weight of the situation was immense, but Maria's resolve grew stronger with every passing day. As the divorce proceedings advanced, Jonathan launched a public relations campaign to control the narrative. A local news article painted him as the wronged party, accusing Maria of plotting revenge and blackmail. The headline claimed that Jonathan's actions were a response to Maria's alleged manipulation, twisting the truth into a damaging story. Maria felt a surge of anger and disbelief upon reading the article. With Evelyn's advice, she carefully prepared to counter these false claims in court. The media battle added another layer of complexity to an already painful situation, and Maria knew that she would have to fight not only in the courtroom but also in the court of public opinion. As the trial date approached, the tension in Maria's life became almost unbearable. Courtroom preparations were meticulous, and every detail of the case was scrutinized. Maria, once the loving and trusting wife, now appeared resolute and determined. In the days leading up to the trial, she reflected on the years of miscommunication and betrayal that had brought her to this point. Despite the legal and emotional challenges, she remained focused on protecting her children and reclaiming her self-worth. Evelyn's strategic guidance provided a steady foundation, and Clara's unwavering support kept her grounded. The courtroom battle promised to be long and arduous, yet Maria was ready. On the day of the trial, Maria entered the courtroom with a quiet determination. Dressed in a conservative suit recommended by Evelyn, she looked at herself in the mirror and saw the strength that had emerged from her pain. The proceedings began, and Jonathan's lawyer immediately painted her as manipulative and vindictive. Yet, as Maria presented the evidence of his secret life, the truth began to surface. Each testimony and document reinforced her position and dismantled Jonathan's carefully constructed facade. In that tense atmosphere, Maria realized that this battle was not only for her own vindication but also for the future of her children. Determined and resolute, she resolved to win and rebuild the life she deserved.